At any rate, that in itself was a miracle that God put that pelvic back together. There was one night, though, during that period, in that first part, where my blood pressure was going crazy. It was pushing, the heart rate was going crazy, pushing out the top. Beating too fast to really be able to push the blood through the body. The blood pressure dropped to as low as 50/40, which means you're almost a dead man. And when the doctors told Eileen about that, what did you and the girls do about that, baby?
I was quite upset, as you would imagine, and I came out to where Bethany was sitting talking on the phone to a friend in Houston, Texas. And Janelle had been here and a member of Bay Life, and they had moved. And as I told Bethany what was going on, she related to Janelle, and Janelle said, I'm going to pray right now that someone will come around the corner and will be there to give you comfort. And Bethany was relaying this. Janelle's praying, Mom, that someone will come here to give us comfort. It's going to be okay. And about that time, around the corner walked, and why should I be surprised, Paul and Susie Worth. And they had been downtown at a social, and Paul had seen several messages on his BlackBerry, and he couldn't get the messages from the hospital that we were sending out. But he said to Susie, something must be wrong because it's 12 o'clock at night, and why would they be sending messages out? We need to go to that hospital. And so they listened to the Holy Spirit, and they came to the hospital, and they prayed with Bethany and I, and went in and prayed over Fred and with Fred. But that wasn't the end of what I call the night of the Holy Spirit, because they had to go home because of babysitters, and they were reluctant to leave us alone. And about that time, around the corner came someone from our life group, Skip and Glenda Bruger. And Glenda had been on the internet, and she all of a sudden couldn't get what was happening, and so she went in at midnight and said to her husband, Skip, get up, get dressed. We've got to go to the hospital. Something's going on. And so they listened to the Holy Spirit. They came up there, and they were able to sit with us and to be with us. And they finally said, we're just going to let y'all, you rest. We will stand guard here. And if anything happens, we'll let you know. But that still wasn't the end of the night of the Holy Spirit, because Lynn Wilkes, out in Lithia, lived beyond where we live, was awakened around 4 a.m, and she felt that the Holy Spirit had said, get up and go to the hospital and protect Eileen and the girls from the cleaning team coming in at 5 and 5:30 and vacuuming under our cots, putting up the blinds and waking us up. And we weren't getting the rest that we needed. And she felt that she needed to come in and give us that rest. So she appeared somewhere around 4:30 in the morning. And when the cleaning team came in at 5:30, she wouldn't allow them to come in and wake us up. And when we finally awakened around 7:30, 7:45, there she was sitting, and we were saying, what are you doing here? And she said, I was sent to protect you so you could get some rest. It's just, the whole idea is that when you hear the leading or the calling or that twinge in your heart or your head that says, call someone, pray for someone, go visit someone, that we need to do it, and we need to do it now, because now is when the need is. So I would really, really tell you that the sooner you have a history with God, you begin to feel that leading. And when it comes about, make sure that you follow through. It's so terribly important.
About that same time, my hand had 2 bones sheared through the skin, and these 2 fingers almost sheared off. And they couldn't do the surgery on it because they didn't think that my body could take the surgery at that time. So all they did was clean it up, leaving the bones out, and they wrapped it up and bundled it up and kept it clean. It was about 4 or 5 days into this before they really felt that I might be strong enough to take the surgery. The surgery on his hand was going to take like 4 hours to 5 hours to do the surgery. But the doctor then approached Eileen as to whether he should do the surgery now or wait later. And of course, each day that they wait is the more trauma that's going to happen around this hand. So he came to Eileen and asked her about it. whether we should do the surgery. And tell them what happened that day.
That was another amazing day. We certainly realized he was going to lose his hand if they were not able to clean it up, get the dirt and the gravel out of it. And at the same time, they didn't feel like Fred's body was strong enough to withstand that long a surgery. The doctor said to me it was like Fred running a 25-mile marathon to go from the 5th floor down to the 2nd floor. Just to go down there was a big deal. But we agreed with him that we certainly had to do the surgery. But about 11:45 noon, I suddenly heard over the intercom that there was a chapel service down in the bottom floor of the hospital. And I wanted to go, and Rick Bazell was there with us, and he agreed to accompany me down to the chapel service. You can imagine my surprise as I sat down and this chaplain opened the Bible. And he said, I'm reading out of Matthew. The man held out his withered hand, and Jesus healed it. I almost jumped out of my seat because I knew I had just been given a love tap from God where he had reached down and assured me that it was going to be okay, that Fred was going to make it through that surgery. I almost ran back up to the 5th floor to share with the girls that I felt very good about this surgery, that God had given me that love tap. Of all the verses in the Bible that this chaplain would pick that one to read, that's not an accident. That's a God incident. And I will tell you that through the next month, I kept listening for that intercom message that they were having a chapel service at 12. Can you believe I never heard it again? My girls tell me, and my friends tell me, they made that announcement almost every day. But I never heard it again. I was supposed to hear it on the day when I was to need it. So once again, God had intervened and made sure that he was walking ahead of us. He was holding us tight. He was giving us that comfort that we needed.
One of the amazing things that came out of this traumatic period was in the first day of it, my son-in-law, Scott Clausen, came up with a thing called care.com, a blog page where everyone in the world could read what happened, and then they could communicate in with messages. When I became conscious some 9 weeks later, I wasn't in a coma. They had me seduced with so much stuff, I didn't know one thing from another and don't remember a lot of it at all. But the girls, Bethany and Penny and Eileen and Scott and my kids, would come in each morning and they would read those blog pages to me, the messages. Those messages became like devotions to me. I would read them in the morning. They would read them to me in the morning, and they would read them to me at night. And God spoke to me through that. I'm certain with Eileen's encouragement and you all's messages, it gave me that will to hang on and hold on for life. Where it hit me the hardest was one day, Becky Green and Brad and the kids came into my room at Brandon Rehab Center. They had pulled a map together of the United States and gone back over all those messages and tried to plot where they came from. Washington State, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Santa Fe, Mexico. I mean, it was just all over the United States. And they came in with that, and I saw all those pins across the United States where these messages come from, that it seemed like to me that God let the whole world be praying for me. You're talking about feeling the very presence of God in your room. I can't tell you what that map meant to me. Up in the corner there, they got a little world map, and there were 6 countries where messages were coming out of them, from Iraq and Afghanistan and Germany and Japan and Hawaii. And I was overwhelmed with the love of God. I don't know the exact numbers. I hadn't looked lately. We're going to try to probably close out that care.com page today with the presentation. But with it, there's been over 10,000 hits on that blog page. There's been some 4,000 messages from almost 900 people that have communicated on that blog page. That is a wonderful instrument that God has given us to be able to communicate across the world immediately things that are happening and where you need prayer. There's some people that with me said, Fred, you can't stop that. We'll have to start a life group or something to be able to keep this thing together.